Hello, today I'm going to take you through question 1 of this paper. It's the IGCSE First Language English exam, and it's the reading paper. I call it the reading passages. There are 3 questions. This first video will be question 1, and then I'll add the next 2. And I advise you to follow the links in this video to the other 2 as well. Learn them all at the same time. This question is from the 2015 paper. And there's some things that you should notice. The genre will be specified. So here it was a newspaper report, but they could ask you to write in any sort of style. So you need to be prepared for letters or website entries or blogs or diaries. You need to know how to write in that way. You'll always be given 3 bullet points. And some of these bullet points are tricky. Look, they're divided into 2 things. And to answer this, you're going to need highlighters. So my trusty highlighters are here. You'll need 3 colours. Why? Well, because there are 3 bullet points and each one is going to correspond. It will always be on the first passage that you have to answer this question. And you're helpfully given a start. Although if you start in a different way, it doesn't penalise you. The examiners don't mark for that. It's often a really quick way to get in. Many students often ask when they're under pressure, but I don't know how to start. And the examiner's trying to help you over that hurdle. Right, now you'll see that I've highlighted each bullet point in a different colour. And crucially, I've left the tops off my highlighters. I don't want to be farting about during the exam, taking those on and off. This is about speed. Right, I've just randomly highlighted a text here just to show you what your text might look like as you're highlighting. And you can easily see that there are lots of colours all over the place, which is exactly what will happen in the exam. You'll find the evidence is dotted about. Then when I check it, there's another 2 paragraphs here. You can see that I've not got anything in it. And it might be, of course, that you've just got a few things highlighted, but you'll notice when you look at it in this way that you're missing stuff, and that's a clue that you've got to go back to that paragraph. Okay, well, how do you use this information for your writing? And that's quite simple. My first bullet point is yellow, so I'm going to write about that first in my response, and I'll simply take the first yellow point, then the next one, and then the next one, and so on. And what I'll try to do is tick them off as I go so that I can see I've used them. Now the great thing about that is when I finish my writing I might find there are some colours left and I can then take my time to put those back in. So it's really vital that you tick off the ones you've used so you can see which ones still need to fit. If you tick off properly there'll be none left, but it's an exam and you'll panic at some point or do something under pressure, and you're bound to miss a few, and this gives you a way to go back and check. The advice for the examiners is quite useful to you here. You can see that they annotate each bullet point. So bullet point 1 is always called A1, bullet point 2 is always called A2, and bullet point 3 is always called A3. Now let me show you how that works in a student's answer. So there's the whole answer for that question, and you can see that the examiner's written A1, A1, A2, A3 as they've gone through. And it's an easy way for the examiner to work out if you're covering all 3 bullet points. And if I zoom in, you'll see that the examiner's report, released at the end of the year, is right for this candidate. He's only got 3 for bullet point A3, and that's cost him marks. He's ended up with only 13 out of 15 marks available. And so you can see how in the examiner's head, they're counting, I want at least 5 A1s, at least 5 A2s, I want at least 5 A3s. Whoops, he's only got 3, therefore we take 2 marks off, 15. The exam scheme doesn't work exactly like that, but of course in the examiner's head it does. So you must use your highlighters to see if you've got 5 of each. In our case, pink was bullet point 3. That is always the most difficult bullet point. That's the one you've got to check. Do you have 5? If you haven't, what are you going to do? You're going to go back to the question paper and see if you can find some more pinks to do, because you're aiming for 100%. The advice to the examiner that I've underlined here says, remember that points used will not necessarily appear in the order of the bullets. So if we just flick across here, you can see that A1 and A2 are mixed up. However, if you do put them together in chunks, it's much easier for the examiner to mark, and I think it's easier for them to give you full marks. But more importantly than that, it's much easier for you to see, whoops, I'm missing. Yeah, because if you've organised it into 3 sections, you can easily see if one section's really short, and that helps you spot where your answer's missing things. Right, the next bit of advice is to get hold of the mark scheme. This is new in 2015 as far as I can tell, and the mark scheme now tells you what development looks like. That's quite interesting because you kind of have to write down what something implies or suggests, but because it's a newspaper you don't write down the words implies or suggests. And a shorthand for that really I think is to talk about the thoughts and feelings. That probably will hit any genre of writing. I don't know if that's true because I haven't seen every single exam question they can ask. So for now, this is the advice that I'm giving. You have to write about what it implies and what it suggests, but you don't use those words because that's appropriate to an essay, and you'll never be asked to write an essay in this language paper. It'll always be a language genre. Okay, this next bit of advice comes in 2 parts. So this candidate here scored the highest in the year group of a very good school, not just for this question, but for his whole paper. So this might not be the highest mark for a question, I'm not sure. However, you'll notice that he's only written 2 pages. Now I'm going to show you another candidate who, in terms of performance as an English student, was far, far better. This is a student who ought to be able to get to Oxford and Cambridge if he so chooses. But you'll notice that he's got a lower mark. He's got exactly the same mark for these bullet points that I've been talking about here. He got 13 out of 15, and so did my previous candidate, the one who wrote only the 2 pages. He also got 13 out of 15. So if you're a sort of grade B kind of candidate, the advice that I've given you is key, and you're going to try and write in this style to write about that much, being quick to put your points in. Now, if you're a really strong candidate at English, this examiner here has helped us by showing us where the development is, where you're writing about implies and suggests. And you can see that this candidate is writing about development all the time because he's just fabulous at English. However, he still hasn't got full marks. Well, why not? Well, if we come down to that final section, he's only made 2 points that are credited in the 3rd bullet point. In his own mind, he's written quite a lot, that and that about the 3rd bullet point, but it's all development, it's all sophisticated. And what he's done is neglected the obvious. So I always offer this advice. Remember that the examiners are stupid. He is too good at English for the exam, and he's forgotten this basic rule. Whoops, there are 3 bullet points. I need to make 5 points for each one. So let me reiterate that. Get the bullet points right first. And then the development. You only need 1 for each bullet point. You don't have to be awesome in order to get 100%. In fact, being awesome will stop you getting 100%. Okay, well, apart from the 15 marks available for the bullet points, there are 5 marks available for the quality of your writing. And let's just zoom in because we want 100% on this one. The language of the response sounds convincing and consistently appropriate. So it's always in the style. In this case, it was the style of a newspaper. Ideas are firmly expressed in a wide range of effective and or interesting language. So you're always thinking about your vocabulary choices. Structure and sequence are sound throughout. Well, again, you can see the advantage there of writing in those 3 bullet point sections because it gives you a structure. Obviously, you still have to paragraph within those, and you'll need an introduction and a conclusion, but those are brief, 1 sentence introduction, 1 sentence conclusion. But what's happened here is quite interesting. Here was my candidate who wrote just over 1.5 pages. Here, if we put the handwriting the same, size-wise, this would still be 2.5 pages. He's actually written more because he's got bigger handwriting. But the mark he's got for his writing is 4 out of 5, is lower than you would expect. It's the same mark as this one, 4 out of 5. And that's a real surprise to me. Let's have a look at what the examiner says. Supporting detail is integrated, development is sustained, language sounds convincing, a little awkwardness. Now there is no awkwardness. This candidate writes brilliantly. I've read through every single word he's written. I'm not attacking the examiner here, by the way. It's very difficult to mark with 100% accuracy, and 2 highly trained examiners are likely to give the same question, the same answer, a different mark, because that's English. We just have to live with that. However, where does this idea that there's awkwardness come from? Well, I think it's this. It's the handwriting. This handwriting looks big and slightly messy, and therefore in the examiner's head, not A-star material. This is small and easy to read. In the examiner's head, much easier to get the A-star. What's missing perhaps is that there's not as much of it, and therefore he's lost a mark for that reason. So top tip, don't write too much. Emphasise neatness, at least in part of your answer. The easiest place to do that is the beginning. So make sure that page is as neat as you can make it, and then get scrappy as you go on. Right, this is the advice that I've written for teachers. So to summarise, question 3, use 3 highlighter colours to highlight the bullet points in the question and the corresponding information in the text. Use this as a tick list to write in 3 separate sections. Notice that each of your sections, if I go across here, will still have lots of paragraphs in it. Yeah, they're not just 3 paragraphs you're writing. Use the tick list to make sure that they've included at least 5 points in each of those sections. And you should remember that the one you're most likely to miss out on is bullet point 3. Go back to that one. Use as a tip list to see if any ideas have been highlighted in your text, like that, but not actually included in the answer. Go back and check that. When you're marking it, use the examiner's annotation of development so that you can show to your teacher where you've put the development in. And the other thing is, you're going to have to try writing in different genres and ask your teacher to teach you how to write in them. How do you write a good diary but still use excellent vocabulary that the mark scheme wanted? How do you write an excellent blog but not get too casual and still use that excellent vocabulary? Anyway, that's enough of me. Hopefully you know exactly how to get 100%, and the only way to find out is to try some questions, mark them, show them to your teacher. Good luck.